Hi there. All right, so as promised, we are going to get into how to use your intuitive awareness, your intuitive knowing as a lie detector. So, of course, the Facebook feeds have been blowing up today with the whole, spammy posts that have been going in, well, spammy messages. Everybody posting that thing of, oh, that don't accept the friendship request from such and such a person. The thing is that these kinds of things are put out intentionally to create fear. And so we need to check in before we go ahead and forward it because you look like an ass if you forward a message that's spam. So you don't want to look like an ass, especially if you're in business. And I'm just going to call that like it is. Um, so using your intuitive awareness is a big, it's a big foundational piece of what I teach. Of course, when you're getting into your inner dominatrix, it's about getting rid of judgments, being able to access and trust and actually follow your intuitive knowing. So that's one of the pieces that we're going to look at today. And also, in utilizing that energy of the inner dominatrix, pulling that in and making it work for you in business. So I'm going to assume that you've been doing some work in clearing out your internal judgments because it's really hard to tune into your awareness when you're still clouded with all of the baggage and junk and whatnot that's going on, from your past. So if you're constantly in the space of making you wrong, you can realize that when you think that you're wrong, then you're probably not going to trust your awareness, right? You're going to have that intuitive hit and then you're probably not going to follow it if you think you're wrong. So if you haven't done that core work, then I'm going to send you back to do that. It'll make this piece a whole lot easier. But for those of you that have, and I probably should warn you, this one's going to be a little bit longer than my typical quick little piece. That's why I wanted to do it in here for like a deeper dive. So what we're going to look at is this idea of tuning into your awareness and how to use that as a gauge. The more that you practice it, the easier it becomes. And it does take repetition, okay? Like I know some of the people that commented on my feed, Mary in particular, she's like, yeah, I know that one, but it takes practice. And yes, it does. It takes practice. It takes practice to trust yourself, and it takes practice to actually follow it and do it, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to utilize your body as a compass, okay? And bear with me if you've heard this one before, but we'll start at the base and get you connected with what is that compass? What is that gauge that says this is true for me and this is false for me? Once you know which response in your body is true or yes, and which response is false or no, then you can utilize that to ask questions. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're just going to ask yourself or make this statement. Sorry, I've changed this around. Make this statement: I am a human being. And notice what sensation that has in your body. Now, sometimes you don't get it right away. So if we compare it to the opposite, you say, I am a chipmunk. And once you get past the laughter of that, because it is a ridiculous statement, in going through those questions or statements again, you say, I'm a human being, and notice how does that feel in my body? Does that have a sense of like, ooh, it feels kind of light or expansive? Or, when I say I am a chipmunk, does it feel kind of heavy and contracted? So that is the light and heavy, and it shows up different for everybody. All right. Pardon me. I have one client, she still sticks with me. It's such an unusual reaction. For true, she would get a tingling in her elbow. And for false, she would get a tingling in her shoulder. Same tingling, just different location. And it was consistent. So it doesn't matter what your compass is. It doesn't matter if you get a tingling at the back of the neck for yes and a tingling on the top of the head for no, or you get a light expansive feeling for yes and a heavy contracted feeling for not. That is not the important piece. The important piece is you being able to know what your knowing is, right? Once you have an idea of what that compass is, right, where that true north is, then you can ask other questions. Okay. Now, I will again, this is going to take some time. You're going to have to play with it. So before you go asking questions about Facebook posts, what I want you to play with is just, checking in. And we can check in not so much on true or false at the moment, but, hey, do I want to wear this shirt? Or which coffee do I want to order this morning if I'm, at the coffee shop? Or what do I want to order off the menu at the restaurant? Little things where the decision is not that big. It's not that, imperative that you get it right, but it will train you to be constantly checking in on what's that niggle, what's that inside voice telling you. And as you train, as you get that muscle development going, then you're going to have a better sense of connecting to it and trusting it and following it, right? Because we've all had the experience where our intuition has been 100% right in hindsight. But where do we get to the point where we follow it today and for the future? So that's really the retraining, is to get that in place where we're trusting it, we're following it now, and we get that niggle and we follow what is actually going to work for us, right? Okay, so once you've played with that for a little bit, or if you've already been playing with this tool or some variation of it, right? There's lots of variations. Energy is energy, okay? People make it complicated. It's not complicated, right? It's not complicated. It's just energy. And everybody has the ability to feel it. Most people just don't label it. They get the feeling and then they don't go, oh, that's energy. They're putting it to something else, right? But you're actually feeling energy. Okay, now here's what I suggest for Facebook posts is that you take your vision and just blur everything, right? Blur the vision so that you're not actually reading the post. And if you happen to be like me, need glasses to read now, you can just take your glasses off. Makes everything blurry. It's kind of an easy fix. But if you make it blurry, then you're not engaging your mental process in evaluating the post. You're just looking at the post as as an entity on its own and going, oh, is that true? And then you can kind of like get a sense of like light and heavy. You just scroll down and you'd be amazed at how much of the stuff on Facebook is false to some degree. And if you want, you can get poking around and you can be like, oh, are they exaggerating it? Are they making that up? Is that a blatant lie? Right? There's always little pieces, and I love doing this for when people are posting that my life is so wonderful. And look, I have all of this, and here I am at the beach, and here I am on the biggest trip of my life, and there's like a little undertone, and I'm like, can they afford that trip? And it's like, you start getting some information of really realizing that it's more than what they post. Because we all do this. We post what we want to post because we want to highlight certain things. And so there's these layers where you may be picking up the bit of the mix in the fact that there's a truth and there's a lie and there's all of it, right? So to be able to separate out and say, okay, well, what's the lie in this? What's the truth in this? And when it comes to, posts that create fear, those are the ones that I really want you to pay attention to, and not buying into the fear, but checking into your intuitive knowing. Is this spam? And you know what? It's amazing. You start fine tuning your senses. I guarantee you, every single time you will be able to smell those hoaxes, scams, spams, all of them, and you won't be spreading them. Okay. So that's where you're heading to, is to be constantly aware, right? And it doesn't take but a half a second, right? So we're not adding anything to your day. Initially, it's getting yourself to actually do it. That's probably the hardest thing, but the energetic awareness comes in probably less than a half a second. Really, it's that nanosecond. It's that instant response. So it's not going to take up your time, but it's a matter of checking in here instead of here. That's the highlight of this, okay? Because this will always go, oh, I better tell people, because like, oh nope, I don't want anybody else to get that. Meanwhile, you haven't asked, is that even true, right? So hopefully that is helpful. If you guys have questions, I see some people are on here live. Um, where do you get stuck with this? What do you want to know more about? Um, it does that explain it. So give me some feedback. Tell me what's going on. Probably people listening and not able to type. So anyway, I will check in on comments and be answering a little bit more, but hopefully that gives you an idea of, how to gauge and the fact that this is a muscle, okay? Give yourself a good chunk of time. And this is the value of what I do with the 5-month coaching group is that in that 5 months, I'm able to give people feedback on what they're sensing. So when I'm tuning in, I don't have any attachment to what the answer is going to be. So I can just read the energy. And yet, initially when people are attached to what the outcome or the answer is supposed to be, they will get a false positive or a false reading. And so that's really helpful. I love being able to just get people quickly back on track, back on track, back on track, and tuning into their awareness, not to mention clearing off all the baggage and getting people stepping into their inner dominatrix energy. So if the 5-month group coaching program is an appeal to you and you are ready to really give up the struggle and step into some ease with everything that comes with your life, then message me. We should have a talk and let's get you going. So, Marcia says, I'm highly aware of these sensations in the body most of the time and choose to ignore them. Very common. Yeah. And it's just practice. You'll have to, you know, most likely you got to clear off the baggage first because if you constantly think you're wrong um, or stuck in that victim thinking, then you're going to default to ignoring them because that's a good way to make you wrong. So, yeah. All right. Woohoo. Have fun, everyone. Mwah.